I do believe that the independent broker space, the nature of this term independent, serves firms better than it serves advisors. And so while legally, by a legal standard, 1099, you own your clients, yes, you are independent. The reality is if you're actually independent, you wouldn't need a Founders or an LPL or a Commonwealth. You'd be your own broker-dealer or your own RIA. And so I've always taken the perspective that we actually are not in the independent space. We are at the dependent space.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Next Mile. I'm your host, Kyle Van Pelt, co-founder at Milemarker. Today, I am joined by a special one, somebody I've known for quite some time in the industry. Everybody, I'm delighted to introduce you to Brad Shepard. Brad is the CEO at Founders Financial, and he is a guy that is pure passion for everything he does, whether it's his business, his family, or anything else that he does. This guy is going to bring the passion and the energy to whatever it is, and I'm expecting that for this conversation today. Brad, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Oh, no, thank you. And well, thank you also for setting such a high bar. I got to try to jump over now today, my friend. So
yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. That's exactly how I want to do it. All right, Brad, I ask every single person who comes on this show the same first question. It's not going to be any different for you. So I've had hundreds of these conversations on air and off air. I've found everybody has a unique path to our industry. Some people, it's a traditional path to the space. They followed in family footsteps. They did what their grandfather did and their father did, and now they're doing it. Other people didn't even know this was an industry that they could get into, and they came in through the side door from left field, from a different place completely. But what I've found is whether your path is traditional or untraditional, everybody has what we call a money moment. And that's that moment in your life where the light bulb kind of went off and you said, this is it. This is what I want to do for my career. This is how I want to spend my time. So for you, what was that money moment that led you to sitting in the chair you're in right now, having this conversation with me?
Yeah, so it actually goes back to, I met my amazing wife, junior year of college, was smart enough to propose 9 months later, and she was crazy enough to say yes. And so coming out of college, I needed a job. And she was going to graduate school, got into Syracuse, got into Maryland College Park, and I was following her wherever she was going to go get a master's in journalism. And I had 2 job offers. I had a job offer from Citizens Bank of Maryland. They just launched this new Citizens Consumer Financial Services company. I didn't know what a broker was. I just knew I needed a job. And I had networked through my dad's contacts to Jim Fredo, who was the president of that at the time. And they offered me a trainee bank investment rep job kind of a thing. That was option 1. Option 2 was I could become the assistant manager at the Radio Shack at Syracuse Mall. And candidly, that's the job I wanted because my roommate was from Syracuse. We're going to keep doing college, quote unquote, for a while after that. But the fortunate reality in hindsight now is we couldn't afford the tuition at Syracuse. And so I took the bank investment rep job and learned quickly that this is an amazing, amazing profession. I had in college shifted from being a math major to an economics major, loved not just proving math, but now applying and doing math a little bit. And so, quickly got licensed at the bank. It was a brand new program at the bank. So finding people that would be willing to talk to me at a young age wasn't hard. There was a plethora of bank clients that wanted to help. And so we got going. Behind the scenes of all of that, kind of into your question about the money moment, Michael Brooks, who was our chairman and founder and my lifetime mentor, I've known him since I was 12. I would have annual board of director meetings with him in my early 20s as I'm building my investment rep career, quote unquote, at the bank. And in 1996, he said, hey, Brad, I launched Founders Financial. And this was about 1990, 1992 some time frame. And I want to do so much more than just insurance and all that. I want to build planning. I want to do investment management. Why don't you get your 24 and come join me and let's go do this together. And so the money moment was that where I agreed to come to this amazing organization that is Founders Financial 28 years ago now. The Michael Brooks invitation was the money moment. Now, that being said, I will tell you, I almost hesitated, and that was thankful to Michael that he didn't let me. We're at breakfast at the Nautilus Diner, and I'm letting him know that, hey, I'm really interested in this role, but I'm looking at other jobs now as well to leave the bank and all that kind of stuff. And he looked across the table and he goes, Brad, are you going to take and there was some color to his question, are you going to take the job or not? Because if you're not, I'm out of here. And remember, it's the guy I've known since I'm 12. So I looked across the table and said, Michael, yes, thank you very much. Let's go. And so the actual moment was that moment at the Nautilus Diner when I said yes to him. And and have been so blessed for so many years now to throw my passion, my energy, my effort into this amazing company.
I love that. Okay, that actually leads to a great thing I wanted to talk about with you. So thank you for that perfect segue. You spent a lot of time as an advisor, as a planner yourself. I mean, you built a practice, you did all of these things. So for how many of those 28 years were you an advisor building your practice and your business that way?
So when I joined Michael, I joined Founders Financial at that point in time, just really as the OSJ leader. But I also worked with Brooks Financial Group, which is one of the member partner firms of Founders, as an advisor, and really did that for almost the whole time until the last few years, where I've stepped back and have just the leadership role of being the CEO of Founders now.
That's the transition I want to talk to you about, because I think one of the biggest cruxes or conversations that I have with a lot of people is they go and they start these firms, they start these businesses as an advisor who wants to help families, and they do the planning and they have success and they're doing a really good job, and other advisors want to come join them and their business starts growing. And all of a sudden they wake up one day and they're at this crossroads of, I have to either become a CEO of an enterprise, or I have to choose to continue to just be a financial advisor and serve the clients I have. And there's always this tension of, I don't want to give up on the families that have got me here, but also, there's so much demand from me to be a leader of this firm. I think you have very gracefully kind of made that transition, and you've really slotted into being the CEO of that firm, and you made that choice and you went that way. So I'd love to hear you talk about that fork in the road and how you have made that transition from being an advisor and a planner to being an executive and a CEO who's running a firm and serving other advisors so well.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it goes back to, again, what's the role of a good mentor in your life? And so Michael Brooks, as I said, has been that for me in many ways over the years. He and I were on an airplane 10 or 15 years ago, heading down to South Carolina to go meet a potential new member partner for Founders. And we're on the plane, and he said to me, "Hey, Brad, remember that conversation we had 6 months earlier about, Brooks Financial Group, advisory leadership, or Founders Financial leading advisors? Where's your heart?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, Michael, thank you. I know you've asked where my heart sits, where my passions will sit. Where do I want to serve these organizations you've built? And I've thought a lot about it, and candidly, I'd like to do both." And he looked at me, smiled, this big smile on his face, because that's amazing. I mean, that's exactly the answer I thought I would get from you. And so it really pains me to do this, but you're fired. I went, "What? Excuse me?" He goes, "Yeah, you're fired." I said, "Like, for real?" He goes, "I mean, are you serious?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm as serious as a heart attack." And I'm literally on a plane next to him. I'm on the window seat. He's in the middle seat. I kind of cower, look out the window. What felt like 30 minutes, 30 seconds, he taps me on the shoulder and goes, hey, ding dong. Is it Brooks or is it Founders? I said, "Okay, it's Founders." He goes, "Thank you. Now, it didn't have to be that way. It didn't have to be that hard, right?" And he goes, "But I need you to tell me why." And I said, "It's actually very easy. I believe that God put me on this earth to make an impact in people's lives, help them find financial security, protect their families, grow their wealth, put their kids through college, all these kinds of things. And the reason it's Founders over Brooks is because at Brooks, I can only do that one relationship at a time. And at Founders, while it won't be me at the kitchen table necessarily, I can do it hundreds and thousands of relationships at a time by helping you build an organization that takes care of advisors so that they can be a means to the client's end and not the other way around." That's where my passion lies. I want to help advisors build and grow great businesses. I want to help advisors become more effective in servant leading relationships. I want to help them get to a point where the relationships they're blessed to serve are granting them authority in their lives so they can actually do the incredible, amazing work that they do. It's a noble profession we serve. And the idea that I can serve it as a leader in it versus as an engineer of it, it was, for me personally, what I felt was my calling.
That's incredible. All right, there's a couple of ways I want to take this, but I'm gonna come back to that because I want to talk about how you serve advisors. Foreshadowing, you guys have this incredible thing called the Strategic Enterprise Program, and I want to talk about that because I think one word that comes to mind when I think about Founders Financial and when I think about Brad Shepard is intentionality. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But before we get there, I want to talk more about Founders, the firm itself. So there's a lot of firms out there. There's a lot of places that have leaders that desire to serve advisors and help them grow their businesses and do a good job. But What do you think it is that differentiates Founders Financial from the other firms out there? And you guys are also proudly a broker-dealer too. So in this world where everybody has gone RIA, everybody who's not one of the mega humongous broker-dealers like an LPL or anything like that, they've all been moving more and more towards a corporate RIA model, giving up the broker-dealer licenses. Founders is proudly a broker-dealer. You know, you have the RIA component, you do all of it. So what differentiates you? Why have you chosen the path that you have? And it seems like, why are you guys zigging when everybody else is zagging?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll first say that it's just our belief system that we kind of want to be different. And what I mean by that is the pursuit of economic stature and the roll-up that's taking place is an economically driven one. And we're not an economically driven company. And what I've seen happen is that advisors have accepted that the relationship they share with their firm, that's okay for it to be different than the relationship they share with their clients. And as I watch this continue to happen, the most recent example, LPL and Commonwealth, right? As I watch this happen, to me, my opinion, my humble opinion, the person that's left in the lurch through all of this is actually the advisor. And it's not the clients ultimately, because they still get to keep the same advisor. But the promises, the trust, the utility, all the things that an advisor chose has not changed. And so what they're learning is that they're actually not independent. And so I do believe that the independent broker space, the nature of this term independent, serves firms better than it serves advisors. And so while legally, by a legal standard, 1099, you own your clients, yes, you are independent. The reality is if you're actually independent, you wouldn't need a Founders or an LPL or a Commonwealth. You'd be your own broker-dealer or your own RIA. And so I've always taken the perspective that we actually are not in the independent space. We are at the dependent space. The actual honest characterization of a relationship between advisors and firms is we're dependent upon each other. And so when you come to that recognition and realization, what we pursue here then is an interdependent relationship, right? Where there's common trust, there's common mindset, there's common vision and goals to achieve. But ultimately it comes down to what sets us apart is we don't want to just grow into a utility provider that's arm's length, that promotes this idea of independence as the best thing. And I'm not to say that these other businesses aren't great, they are. And for those advisors that want a arm's length utility relationship, I think there's lots of really great choices out there. We're just not that. And so why are we zagging when everyone else is zigging? Because I believe, and we believe as an organization, that there are advisors that want actually an authentic partnership. They want a firm that's in the foxhole with them, helping them grow a business, not just serving the technology or the processing aspects of their business. And so we kind of get all up in it with an advisor. And the invitation at Founders is, how do you, in an interdependent fashion, allow us and you together to now take up arms, to take up and go fight for your dream with you, because they're not an economic proposition to us. Their dream is what's important to us, no different than their client's dream is what's important to them.
Yeah. I love that concept. I know I've told you this off the air before. I think it is extremely self-aware to acknowledge the interdependency, because everybody loves the marketing speak of independence. You'll be independent, you'll be independent, you'll be independent.
Right.
And I think it's true that I actually believe that there's a lot of firms that have gone independent. They've started their own RIAs, things like that, and they've realized they actually didn't want all of the independence that they have.
Right.
They wanted to go independent, maybe to pick certain investment strategies or choose some technology that they were told they couldn't, and then they realized they got to deal with real estate lease negotiations, and they've got to deal with, office supplies, and they've got to deal with benefits packages and all of these crazy things that they're like, oh, I didn't want to do all of this stuff, right? So how do I find somebody that's going to help support my business, but I can have a little bit more freedom of choice on what I think is best for my clients?
Well, and to that point, it goes to this fundamental question, right? Are advisors, did they intend to become business owners, or are they accidental business owners? Every advisor can answer that question for themselves. Your listeners can answer that question for themselves. My bias is that advisors go independent because they want to serve clients more holistically. They want more control over the things that independence does offer and provide. But I don't think that when they make that decision, they make the decision to then understand the complexity. And you spoke to this earlier in our conversation, the complexity that now being a business owner brings. and why this choice between CEO and advisor kind of conflict and all that sort of thing. And so what I do fundamentally believe is that most independent advisors want the freedom of independence to go run their lives the way they want to run their lives, serve their clients the way they think it's best, have access to a wide range of platform and technology and products and investment strategy and all these kinds of things so that they can take their intellect, marry with their heart, and deliver an outcome, I guess like we all would want, right? That they're doing for the client that which they would do for themselves in the same exact circumstance. Kind of the golden rule, right? By the way, if we just all follow that, we probably wouldn't need the fiduciary rule, but that's a whole different conversation, Reg BI and all that kind of stuff. And so ultimately, they're in conflict every single day. And what we then offer and provide in founders, this interdependent model, is the ability then to hand off or outsource or partner with or just get stronger and better at all the things it takes to run and own a purpose-rich, servant-led financial planning enterprise that advisors, when they get to their first levels of success, they're now hitting ceilings of complexity. And they're going, wow, how do I get time back? How do I organize? How do I build the right strategic vision going forward? All that kind of stuff. And so founders, as their partner, and then more specifically through our strategic enterprise program, is how we then engage with them in a partnered way to help them begin to tackle and think about these things that have nothing to do with necessarily what's the best financial plan for that client, but the process of building their financial plans, how to make it scaled and efficient, the process for attracting new relationships and all those sorts of things, and running a practice, building an enterprise that reflects who they are. Because at the end of the day, for most independent advisors, they are their product. The business is a reflection of them, their heart, their soul, all that kind of stuff.
Let's go a little bit deeper there. So I said earlier I wanted to talk about the strategic enterprise program. You brought it up there. So let's talk about it. Because I think you all have a unique point of view, which is that you just said it. The advisor themselves is the enterprise. Everybody thinks about the LLC or the corporation as the enterprise, and we have to figure out how to make that as valuable as possible. But you hold this deep-seated belief that the advisor themselves are the partners of the firm, if you will, if there's multiple, they are the enterprise because the business is a reflection of themselves. So founders, it probably goes a little bit beyond practice management, but, practice management beyond developed this strategic enterprise program to help people be intentional about the way that they're growing and building their practices in their firms. And, this is only something that they can get if they're partnered with you guys. But talk to me about that. It's a pretty intensive process that they go through with you all.
Yeah, and I'll even say it different than that. I wouldn't say it's an intensive process that go through with us. It's a intentional process they go through with themselves. And that difference is the difference between what our industry knows as coaching programs and what strategic enterprise is. So credit where credit is due. So Michael Brooks, our chairman and founder, I have always believed him to be more of a business visionary than a practitioner of financial services, right? And I've always viewed myself to be a practitioner of financial services that's hopefully in some small way become a bit of a business visionary and ability to influence and impact lives of people. And so when I was here in my early days, and my life's getting more complex, right? I'm having children, the businesses are succeeding, and I'm starting to get pulled in more directions. I'm watching Michael, again, my lifetime mentor, remain utterly balanced in so many different ways. He's got 4 children. They're coming and going in every different direction. He's got these businesses that he's the founder and owner and creator and inventor of. They're growing and thriving. And I'm watching him remain balanced. And I mean mind, body, spirit balanced, right? Not right, left-footed kind of balance. And I went to him one day and I said, how do you do it all? It's impressive. He goes, well, in my early 20s, my mom sat me down and said, hey, Michael, what's important to you? Is it titles or testimony? And she challenged me to really think hard about that. And an outcome of that is I chose testimony over titles. But the process of choosing testimonies, I realized I need to build for myself a system to keep myself on track, to keep myself moving in the right way, aware, intentional, thoughtful. For Michael, who's an avid fly fisherman and an incredible one, done it all over the world. It's about the explore, the discover, and the pursue. And the fly fishing is very much like that, right? Explore the river, discover the little hole in the place where the fish might be, and then pursue them, see if you can't catch one of them. And so that mantra is what Strategic Enterprise Program at Founders is all about. How do we partner with an advisor? How do we help them begin to think about the exploration of their world, the discovery of things that are most important to them, and then the pursuit of that, no matter the consequence at the end of the day, right? So SEP, Strategic Enterprise, is not a coaching program. Coaching programs tell you what to do and you just go do it. And SEP isn't that. SEP is what's important to you, why is it important to you, and then puts all the practical, tactical tools, technology, things around it so you can organize, track, measure, and get after it, the pursue part of it. But ultimately, it is understanding that what makes advisors, independent advisors, great isn't their commodities. It isn't their investment management prowess. It isn't their cooler financial plan technology the next. It's them. And so SEP encourages the pursuit of self-discovery. It encourages the pursuit of self-awareness, of strengths and weaknesses, so that this advisor / CEO of this business can really be servant leading the people that have been placed in its care in an intentional, effective way, and then bring together all these differentiated needs, workflow and process, management and leadership of people, capital structure so that you've got money to invest and keep growing your practice, all these kinds of things. So it touches all the things you would expect a coaching, quote unquote, program to do, but its foundation, starting point is, what's your dream? Why is it your dream and how committed are you to it?
I'm struck by the intentionality of all of it, because I think what's also great about that is I feel like the theme of our conversation has been the complexity of building these businesses. I'm often quoted on this show talking about, I think a lot of people really oversimplify the financial advice profession. Oh, you just meet somebody, they give you their life savings, you put it in a 60-40 portfolio, and then you go about your day, right? And there's so much more that goes into it, even to how do you build that 60-40 portfolio, all of that stuff. And it seems like Founders has really taken this stance on, we are going to help our advisors, our member partners, the people that are interdependent on us to navigate the complexity of all of this business. We're going to take on some of it here, but we're going to teach you how to deal with it on your side. And it seems like all the tools, everything you're doing, that's like the whole goal is how do we simplify the complexity for our member partners? Is that fair?
It's very fair. And it's why we're never going to be thousands, right? It's why we're never going to take on a private equity partner to blow this thing up. Because in that moment, what's important to us is forced to change. And it's the intimate, direct, honest, transparent relationship of an advisor and us, helping them take hold, and in some cases, helping them for the first time ever even begin to envision and think about what their dream might be. But it's taking hold of the thing that's most special, which is them, and helping them understand how powerful their voice, their heart, their spirit is to then attract and grow and build and lead. As I said earlier, this idea of a purpose-rich, servant-led financial planning enterprise. And waking up every single day kind of like, wow, I get to do this? Oh my goodness. I mean, what professions do you know of, my friend, where if you do this right and you do it right for a long time and you just take care of people the right way, you get to make more money than probably you deserve to make as a human, if we're being honest. Certainly more than most of us that do this well ever really need, right? And so if we can set that aside, then it gets back to this super important question. Why are you doing this? And the blessings of Michael Brooks, our chairman and founder, is the installation, the requirement of philosophy to drive every decision we make every single day to answer this so importantly fundamental question. As an example, we don't have president's clubs. You can't win a trip with us. We don't have a list of who has the most production or not. I wish that when we were evaluating advisors as an industry, we would, instead of how much AUM or GDC, don't get me wrong, those are not unimportant measurements, but I'd love us to measure, what percent of their clients achieve their goals? How many of them retired when they planned to because your leadership was so awesome? How many of them did you help navigate the tariff dump when markets sold off all of a sudden, right? And the people were freaking out and terrified, and you brought peace to their lives. So when they hit that pillow that night, they were sleeping well. And the outcome of that is we all win. And we all end up fine economically. And so we just pursue that with all our passion every single day. And that's I think the zag of the zig, as money continues to drive our industry. And I'm not going to say infiltrate. Capital is capital. We need capital. Businesses need capital. But as it drives things, it begins to change the nature of what we're pursuing and more importantly, why we're pursuing it. The conversation I've been having with Commonwealth advisors since the announcement of LPL buying them, I think they feel disenfranchised now, like the promise was broken kind of a thing. And the reality is the leaders made the business decision they need to make because capital became I think, the driver of an outcome rather than what's most cherished to us, how it impacts those people's lives.
I love that. All right. Sometimes in a lot of businesses, there's the old adage or proverb of the cobbler's kids has no shoes, right? And so I love you talking about how passionate you are about helping your member partners and the firms that have chosen to affiliate with you, how you help them simplify the complexity. But I can imagine running an organization that's serving all of these member partner firms and all of that type of stuff, that the complexity can grow and creep into your organization. What are you guys doing, or how are you applying these same concepts to Founders Financial to make sure that you are simplifying the complexity in the home office so that you can continue to serve the member partners well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think the first thing you got to do is go find the right people that believe what you believe, right? That buy into why we exist, what we fight for, and all those kinds of things. I think a part of that comes down to this idea of measure twice, cut once. So you can eliminate complexity by doing it right the first time. And so, that helps avoid complexity. I think that a well-envisioned and executed strategic plan can also simplify and remove complexity. But I think the single most important thing we do to remove complexity here is we don't try to be something to everybody. We know who we are. We stay in our lane. We do it fantastic and great. And we don't try to be something else. And so if I'm talking to an advisor and we're exploring common ground together and they just don't fit, we tell them that. And we don't try to go figure out how to make them fit. Our business isn't to try to give every single different type of advisor in this industry an affiliation choice to us, right? And so our complexities are just fundamentally different. So by focusing on our true north, our single source of truth, we just don't deal with the same levels of complexity bigger organizations could deal with who are trying to be something to everybody, if that makes sense. And so that's a big part of it. I would say technology is a big part of it. And so we are super smart about how we use, invest, and grow and develop and innovate with technology. It drives scale beautifully. It levelizes the playing field. There's a big, I think, misnomer in our industry that small can't survive, and it's just not honest. In fact, I think small can thrive better than we ever have because technology has completely leveled the playing field. What we can now do to compete, quote unquote, as a platform, as a this, as a that, yeah, I'll stack our utility up against anybody's. It's equally good, if not better. And so we don't have to have hundreds of $millions of budget to go develop and invent and code technology because we can just go buy it off the shelf. Fintech disruption happened, levelize the playing field, productivity skyrockets with it. And so for us, we just don't have those complexities the same way because we're so laser focused on who we are, who we serve, and then how we do it. And then if you think about the advisor we serve, the other answer to the question is helping them become more efficient, helping their world to become less complex. By default, then empowers us to continue to run our world the way we do. And so that effort we place to be a partner to them, to help them create scale, efficiency, process, workflow, and enhanced outcomes goes a long way to, I guess, helping us remain more efficient as well. Simple example, I think I'm allowed to do this in these podcasts. If not, we'll edit this later, I guess. But so we are a partner with DocuPace, an enterprise end-to-end tool for paperwork forms. And we've been told, and this is not my words, this is what I've been told, is that founders did the best development work and put that tool together better than any firm that uses DocuPace. So we took the time to understand what can that do for us and how can it do it the best for us. And then we took the effort, time, and energy to do it that way. And what does that mean? It means our firms are smart. And so as a result of this decision, our NIGO rates dropped 85% in a 12-month period.
Awesome.
So again, smart decisions about how you manage and run your business, right partners to help you do it, using the tools that you now have to the best of their ability drives the outcomes you seek. And so what was more complex in our world before, getting business approved, if an advisor took the more lazy path of filling something out incorrectly, and Lord knows we're all guilty. I was too when I was in my peak advisor years. But it's those kinds of things. And so staying in your lane the right way, but then using the tools to their max efficiency, and the outcomes you seek happen.
That's excellent. And I think you're totally allowed to share that case study and that story.
Okay.
I think that's fantastic. All right. So as you're talking through this, I'm just struck by two things. I mean, number one, I think you all are exhibiting a different type of discipline. A lot of times when people talk about discipline, I feel like it's in the context of being very disciplined on the way they run their time and their routine so that they can get as much done as possible every single day. But I think you all exhibit a different type of discipline, which is we are just not going, everybody's susceptible to chasing shiny objects. But I think you all are really good at, this is what we're going to say no to, and we're going to continue to say no to it. That's not just lip service. We are not going to open up 100 avenues to grow just because we feel like we should grow. We're going to grow in the way that our business was put here to serve. But that leads me to
real fast to that point, though. It's because we're trying to grow for impact's sake, not for growth's sake. And that's because we don't have an economic partner that's driving the shifting lens of our view that way, if that makes sense. We're abashedly proud to be not a partner to other than our member partners at the end of the day. We don't have venture capital. We don't have private equity. We don't even debt in our business. And so it gives us freedom. You know what the ultimate freedom is? None of that in our estimation, which means that we don't have to be tempted to the next shiny object or be pressured to an outcome that's purely economically motivated.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think that feeds into the next question, though, which is a little bit of a softball for you, but I don't even know if I've ever truly asked you about this. So who is the ideal firm to join, that's a great fit for founders? Is it somebody who's currently at a broker dealer because they're used to that? Is it somebody different? Is it outside of all of those things? Because there's a lot that you're saying no to. We don't have tons of affiliation models. If you do come to founders, you are going to be under the broker dealer, right? This is the way we do things, and you have to fit under the way that we do things. So you might not be opening the door for everybody, and there might be a high bar of criteria to get in, but what is that firm that is a great fit for founders?
It's evolved over time for sure, but it starts with probably a different proposition than most. It starts with who the advisor and leader of that organization is, what's their heart to serve, and how do they care for relationships, and what's their motivations in life, and why do they exist as an organization, right? That's always our starting point. We've said no to advisors that are, 7-figure GDCs because we just didn't feel like that was the most important thing to them. First conversations about the Ferrari they bought, not about the lives they impacted, kind of a thing, right? But I think for many firms, they would be thrilled to have that advisor probably. So it always starts there for us. That being said, beyond that, and we begin to think about who we do a really good job of caring for, it's the advisor that's hitting the ceiling of complexity in this idea that they're accidental business owner versus great advisor, right? That doesn't necessarily portend size, although what we tend to see is advisors that are probably, 40 to 80 million of assets. They're probably doing 200 to 600,000 a year of GDC. They are both registered reps and IRs of corporate RIAs. And just to take a step back, the reason why we're committed to the business is because we just think to serve a family the right way, you need to be able to have access to all of that stuff. Plenty of times where I may not personally recommend something that would need to be a broker-dealer kind of product, but they already own things that need to be under a broker-dealer, and I want to become the advisor rep on them. If only for that reason, we should maintain a broker-dealer, right? To allow the advisor to serve that ultimately. And we'll see as time passes. But it's this advisor, they're a BD rep and an IAR. They have been successful. They're hitting ceilings of complexity, and they, in many cases, they're probably kind of alone and independent because they're just not big enough to garner attention in these big firms that continue to see, kind of take over and own part of the industry. And again, they're great firms. And I think they're going to serve probably 60 to 65% of the ultimate population of independent advisors ultimately. And those advisors, they'll be substantive enough that a utility relationship's enough for them. They don't really care to do and need or want all the things that we deliver. But then I think there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands of advisors that really want a partnership. I mean, I don't know what the number, Commonwealth, 2,800 advisors, right? I think 2,800 of those wanted something like that want an organization that's going to help them think about more than just the platforms, the technology, the compliance, all that kind of stuff. That really help them consider what's their dream, how to get after it, how to be a better business owner, how to be, in the context of that, scale, grow, balance between all the things that are pulling in different directions. But that's the way to answer it. It's this advisor that's probably they've been in the business 10 to 15 to 20 years. They're successful. They're doing a good job, but they really are just a number. They've become alone at these big firms. They want to find someone who understands who they are, doing different. They understand their clients, and then wants all the great stuff we have, which is as good as anybody else's, but wants a partner to help them bust through those to the next level ultimately. We've grown our number of advisors threefold over the last 10 to 15 years, but we've grown our assets 12-fold. That's because we help advisors grow businesses. So part of it's markets, of course, but it's a lot of energy we place into understanding and helping them grow practices.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of the people I talk to are actively trying to figure that out, which is, hey, there's only so many advisors we can acquire or recruit, but we've got a big base of advisors here that if we can help make them more efficient, if we can help them grow their businesses, then we as a firm do considerably better. There's so much to be developed inside the walls you already have, rather than constantly looking out at what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing. And, that's great. I love that.
An example, I was at a conference recently, and one of our bigger firms in the industry said their target is only firms that have more than $1 million of GDC. And I thought to myself, wow, if that's all they're targeting, why? And that's because the private equity firm that owns them is requiring that. And I thought to myself, wow, so then you just basically said all these advisors aren't that. They're not worthy. They're not. My view is I'll go work with every advisor, as I just described, that's doing great, making an impact, and want to partner or something. And we just don't measure things that way.
This podcast is brought to you by Turncast. We make game-changing content for fintech and financial services companies. Learn more at turncast.com.
Hey, this is Judd Mackerel. Thanks for listening to this show. I just wanted to ask you one question. What's your technology and data strategy for 2025? If you can't clearly answer that question, I'd love to talk. We are spending some specific time with select firms to really go deep and help you clearly answer that question. We believe that it's one of the things that often holds back firms from really achieving their potential, from really achieving growth, and really getting a lot of the things in the position that they need to be. The things that are holding up the way that you scale, like your workflows, how you manage data around your revenue, how you report all of that to your advisors, and getting clarity in all those things. I'm sure there's a lot of very specific things to your business that are really important as well, and we'd love to talk about that. If this is interesting to you, hit me up with an email. My direct email is jud@milemarker.co, and I'd love to hear from you, hear what you're working on, hear what your strategy is, and see if there's an opportunity for us to help you get more clear on that strategy in 2025. Thanks.
Okay, you've touched on technology a little bit. I feel like the sands of technology are shifting all the time, yet you guys take such a deliberate approach to how you're doing things. So how do you stay disciplined and take the disciplined approach to how you did with DocuPace and that case study that you just said, with all of the new stuff that's coming out, all of the fancy things that they're going to transform your business overnight, according to their marketing and their sales stuff and everything like that. Right. It just feels like that is such a seesaw too of, hey, we want to constantly be vigilant, to be looking at the new things that are coming out that could help our business, that could make it better, that could help us serve our partners, that could help them serve their families and achieve success, while also being deliberate about making sure that we're not just adding things for adding its sake. So how do you deal with that?
It goes back to one, having the right vision for it, and two, the understanding of its role. A little backstory, and you've heard me tell you this story before. 10 or 15 years ago at our National Leadership Conference, I stood before our member partners and asked them to raise their hand if they thought their business was different than the person sitting next to them. And every single person in the room raised their hand. And I said, awesome. I said, now raise your hand if you do review meetings. Hands go up. Now raise your hands if you trade. Hands go up. Now raise your hands if you do asset allocation, investment research. You get the idea. And so after about 30 questions, everyone's hand going up all 30 times. So I kind of made them. Like, come on, put your hand up. Do you do that? I said, now raise your hand if you still think your business is different than the person sitting next to you. And nobody raised their hand. I said, wrong. Stand up, jump up and down. Your business is different. You just don't understand why. You think it's different because of the way you put an investment portfolio together. You think it's different the way you build a financial plan. You think it's different because of these processes, the what and how of a firm. But it's actually not. What makes your firm different is who you are, how you lead, how you compel people to let you have authority in their lives, how you build trust, how you follow through on promises that you've made and keep track of them, all these kinds of things. And so if we can then agree, and so raise your hand, you agree, that's somewhat truthful, and they're kind of like, yeah, you got us there, we kind of agree. I said, well, then raise your hand now if you enjoy picking technology, integrating technology, learning technology, advancing technology, mastering technology, and no one raised their hand at all. And I said, so one of the things that we want to do at Founders for you and together with you, we are built by and for shared resources, shared values organization. We want to, if we all agree we kind of got that same need, let us please go explore, discover, and pursue a platform of technology that, I don't care if you're an LPL advisor, a Merrill Lynch advisor, a founder's advisor, right? The need's the need, so that we can lead client relationships the proper way, have at our fingertips the information data we need to serve that relationship and function efficiently in a practice. And so we embarked upon that. And we sit here 10 years later, having done that exact thing. And we understood that there's three fundamental needs that every independent advisory practice has. They need to create a wonderful client experience. They need to have a way to run called enterprise management, how they run their practice. And they need to protect cyber, protect from the bad actors of the world and data and all that kind of stuff. And so once we got the buy-in from our member partners that they don't want to do all of this, and the strategic vision, those are the problems we need to solve for, it wasn't hard then in a world where, and to your credit and to our history together, you've been a remarkable disruption to the industry in a really awesome way. If the Kyle Van Pelts of this world don't exist, it's harder for the founders of this world to exist for sure. Because what your leadership has done in this industry, what the companies you've touched and impacted in your career have built tools that now make it so that I, the CEO of Founders, can be utterly competitive, and the one or two shop advisor in Athol, Massachusetts can also for their local market be competitive and relevant, because the technology it's a levelizer, it's a flattener, right? And so that was the mindset. And then we onboarded, because again, we have this interdependent personality or mindset with our member partners. They wanted us to do this for them. They know that every minute they take doing this stuff is another minute they don't have to go serve a relationship and grow their practice. And they were happy to hand us the keys of this car. And we've built, as you know very well, an incredible industry-leading platform and tech stack that meets the needs. And I think that's an important point too with technology. There's a thing about life, about wanting what we need versus wanting what we want. And if you think about just even you as a father and a spouse and a husband and a friend, if you can help people think about wanting more what they need versus wanting more what they want, that's a pretty cool outcome, right? Life becomes more peaceful. And so the fundamental challenge with technology is, because it's these nice, cool, shiny objects, it gets advisors quickly think about what they want versus what they need. And the want part is a distraction from what actually is making them be successful. It sucks time, sucks thinking, sucks any number of things out of their world. And so our members trust us candidly. They don't pay attention to all the shiny objects, probably. I'm kind of guessing a little bit, but I think it's probably true. And because they know that we are paying attention to that for them. So as an example, what's the latest and greatest shiny object? It's AI, right? And so do I, as a $500,000 GDC 2 or 3 person shop in some Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, do I have the bandwidth, the resources, and the perspective to go assess how AI can change my business? I mean,
probably not.
Maybe, but probably not, right? And so they know that we're going to, though. And what they also know is that we're going to not through the lens of just how it makes Founders better and how we operate, but our starting point is always going to be, how does it make their world better? Yeah. How does it make them easier to prepare for a review meeting? How does it make it easier for new investment research and all those kinds of things? And so that's the latest, greatest technology shiny object, but we're going to work on their behalf to figure it out for them and with them, so they can stay focused on what they're really in love with it doing and what they're really great at, which is growing, enhancing relationships and building great financial planning practices.
Great answer, man. All right. We're starting to talk about it. So I'm going to move to this segment of the show where I love to ask leaders like yourself to get out their crystal ball and kind of look a little bit into the future. You just touched on AI a little bit, but as you're looking down the road, 3-5 years, and trying to position the firm for what's going to happen next or any of that type of stuff, what are you looking at? What are you paying attention to? What are some of the predictions you have for what's going to happen in the market?
Market as in the industry, not market as in the markets, right?
Yeah, we're not talking about the financial markets. Yeah. The industry as a whole.
Yeah, you have to get Pete Murphy, our CIO, on for that conversation in the future. So I think the industry it's healthy, and that's a really important starting point for perspective. But I think it's going to be a super challenging, competitive environment. I think what we've seen over the last 15, 20 years is the saturation of serving the mass affluent marketplace in this country and their financial planning and investment risk management needs. And so I don't know that there is a huge upside in the near term for growth opportunity because of demographic shifts, if that makes sense. In fact, you can make the legitimate argument that the next generation that have wealth transferred to them, build the wealth of their own as they grow their careers, their families, all that kind of stuff. They're the most tech savvy generation yet. And so, one can make the argument that it's going to be harder for small planning shops to attract clients in the future because they've become more self-sufficient, tech-driven. The big firms out there are going to continue to help make that experience easier for them at the end of the day. My absolute belief, and I'll go to my grave believing this, is that humans want to work with humans. And that we care to be around people that know us. We care to be around people that want to help us, that will listen to us so we can get off our chest things that we're concerned about or fearful about or that we want to celebrate with. And so I think that as wealth continues to be accumulated and built in this country, and I'm very confident in that, I do believe in American capitalism, I think the opportunity is good as it's ever been. The demographic nature of our industry is, it's, as we know, nothing you don't already know. It's aging. And so the number of advisors to serve what's out there to be served is going down, not up. And so I think advisors have probably one of the best opportunities they've ever had. Markets are more complex than they've ever been. And so I'm super bullish, if you'd say it that way, on the ability for independent financial advice to be needed, wanted, and delivered in a very efficient, effective way. And so that's pretty exciting, candidly. As the industry goes, I think the wave of consolidation and acquisition and private equity that we've witnessed is going to slow. And then maybe I'm the odd voice on that.
Yeah, I would say you are, but continue, keep going.
And so this is my perspective. And you get to a point where there's nothing left to acquire private equity or buy, right? Yeah. And so I realized I'm not dumb, I don't think, but there's less to go buy right now. Like, what's the next Commonwealth that's going to get sold? There's one more gone now, kind of a thing. And so I do think that competition in our industry is going to be more organic than it's been. And that to me is also a healthy thing for our industry. And I think the firms at the most risk are kind of the firms that want to compete in an economic quotient and a platform quotient and a utility quotient with the biggest, most dominant firms in our industry. Those are the ones I think have the most risk of not being here. And I do really believe that the smaller firms, and when I say that way, I mean smaller. I don't mean small. Smaller, we're not a small firm. We're a smaller firm, if that makes sense, right? I think we're going to thrive. As I said earlier, I think the big firms will serve about 70% of our industry. Advisors will accept a utility status quo relationship for the most part. They won't want more than what the platforms and the technology and those kind of things can deliver. And I think there's going to be a group of advisors, and it's not an insignificant group, that want a much more personal relationship. Someone in the foxhole with them, with an authentic relationship, help them think about all this kind of stuff. And so I'm very optimistic about, as an industry, how we continue to provide leadership to people. And to me, the most important thing is that we work, Kyle, in an honorable profession. It's noble. It's unfortunate sometimes the reputation it gets. I don't know those advisors that do the things that give it that reputation. I know men and women who work tirelessly to help families achieve their goals and dreams. And that's just amazing stuff. And so I think regulation is going to continue to be what regulation is. We'll all adapt and adjust. I do believe fundamentally that it's right to have certain professional standards of excellence about how we serve. And I think it's right to think about whether conflicts exist and how they should be communicated, all that kind of stuff. We can debate whether what is perfect or not, but the intentionality, the purpose behind it makes sense. I would want to be treated that way if I was a client, ultimately. Yeah. Right?
I totally agree, man. I think the more that I look at all of this, the more I study it. I've said this a couple times on here, but I think in-person authentic experiences are on the rise because people are going to want to know. They're going to grow tired, they're going to grow fatigued of all of the AI generated content, the video, the emails, the everything that's just going to be constantly generated by that. And they're going to have a desire for what is real.
Right.
There will be an acceptance of all of the AI stuff as a part of what is real.
Right.
But I think there's going to be a deep desire for in-person authentic experiences, which I think is going to be interesting because I wonder how much that'll bring this global idea we have to more of a local idea that we have of, is it going to be back to more seminars and dinners and things like that where we lead with people? I also think, by the way, on the flip side, there's going to be a lot of people across the globe who plunge into this. There's a movie that has been out for a long time. It's called WALL-E. It's like a Pixar Disney movie.
Yep.
I think there'll be a lot of people who plunge into what I call the WALL-E thing, which is like a hover wheelchair that takes you everywhere with a screen that never leaves your face and AI serving you. And I think there's a lot of people who will take it head on, and maybe we bifurcate a little bit. And those will be people that maybe are served completely by technology. But I have to believe the way humans are wired that they will always want humans around for some reason.
Yeah, people need people, bottom line. The COVID experience proved that in spades, right?
Yeah.
The uptick in mental health challenge in this country, the uptick in all the things that we've seen coming out of COVID, and really in a trending fashion because of things like social media and these phones that we live on and all that kind of stuff. No, people want human connection. And if they don't, we'll just keep working tirelessly to find the ones that do. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. I don't think I'm on this point. I know how I tick. I know how you tick. I know the experiences and what that means to my soul. Humans have rich souls. And so I just fundamentally believe that for founders to continue to succeed, we're just going to keep living by this very simple premise, that is that we will honor a relationship with an advisor the same way they honor a relationship with their client. And
I love it.
And it's just that simple, so.
All right, Brad, we're going to move into the final segment of the show, which is called the Milemarker Minute. It's a series of lightning round questions aimed to be lighthearted and fun, getting to know you a little bit better as a human. So are you ready for the Milemarker Minute?
That sounds great. I promise I'll do my best.
All right, man, here's the first question for you. If you could travel anywhere in the world you've never been to before, where would you go?
The Amalfi Coast of Italy with my wife.
Excellent. I love it. What is the best flavor of ice cream?
Oh, wow. As a kid or now?
Both.
All right. Grape ice from Baskin Robbins as a kid. Now it's cappuccino chip from Priegel Family Creamery, 2 miles from my house, where they built these amazing organic cows.
All right, I got to go to Priegel Family Creamery next time I see you. Put that on the list.
Done.
All right, what is the best book you have read or listened to in the past year?
So I don't know the title off the top of my head. I read a book about meditation about 6 months ago. I wish I remembered the title. I wasn't focused on the titles. I was focused on the message. It was all about finding these quiet moments for your own soul, kind of a thing. I will certainly look it back up.
Look it up. Tell me. We'll put it in the show notes for everybody so that they can go check it out.
Sounds good.
Okay. What is a 3-spine stickleback?
The best question of the whole interview. A 3-spine stickleback is a very, very important fish in our world. And it's really important because my daughter studies it, but it is a wonderful team name for a golf team that I help run. So yes. And it fosters imagery of fun. But the 3-spine stickleback actually is a little fish all over the world. And what's unique about it actually is my daughter, who's legitimately studying this thing for a master's degree in ecology, it's, as she's described, I'm not sure I'm going to get this exactly right, but it is the only animal that its chromosomes, mitochondria, DNA, all that stuff, whatever scientists do, it's the same if they raise it in the wild or if they raise it in a lab. And so it's a very unique animal where they can study, and the things that the scientists would want to study in the lab, they can study in the wild, which means they can also then do other things in the wild to study it that, I guess, for the work they do, makes it really important from a ecology and all that kind of stuff perspective. But yeah, it's a little fish.
Not to be cheesy to pull this back, but the stickleback is the same fish no matter what its environment. And I think that's very much the same about you, sir. So, great
pullback on that one. So yeah,
I love it. All right. You have just had a massive win in your life and you are going to celebrate with the people closest to you. What is the meal that you are having to celebrate a massive win in your life?
Well, if I'm celebrating with the people I love the most, a massive win, then they've got to be at the house and we've got to be doing a cookout.
I love it. What's your go-to cookout item?
I'm not a master chef. I've got other people around here that certainly are. I think I make a pretty good grilled chicken with great barbecue.
I love it. Awesome, man. Okay. Here's the final question. So there's an alternate universe, okay? And in the universe where we're having this podcast, you are the CEO of Founders Financial. But in this alternate universe, Brad Shepard has a completely different career. What is the career that Brad Shepard has in the alternate universe?
I would be an economics professor at a small New England college or university, and I would also be the soccer coach of the school soccer team.
that checks out. I mean, just every box. I feel like that is,
That would be-
I could see
and
that.
I might while I'm there, crash a couple of philosophy courses, psychology courses, and most importantly, and maybe help them build a leadership curriculum to help the young minds that we would be serving and helping form how the importance of what servant leadership is all about. Because at the end of the day, what actually makes founders special is that's what we wake up to do every single day. And while I am blessed beyond measure to be the CEO of this company, I promise you there ain't a single person here who works for me. Quite the opposite. I work for all of them. That's just the way we do it here. So
great place to end. I'm going to even skip my little outro on any of that stuff. I think that's the mic drop moment. So everybody, that's been another episode of Next Mile. Please make sure you click follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you'd be kind enough to leave a review on the show so other people who've never found it can find great conversations like the one I just had with Brad, it'd be much appreciated. But until the next episode, enjoy every mile.